everybody, it's Josie here. I'm going to be doing my Reading Rush wrap-up video. So first of all, I need to apologise. I was doing daily vlogs, which I was really enjoying, and doing the daily video challenges. And then the weekend came around and I went away, and honestly, I just didn't have time to film anything. But I've been catching up today on everybody's videos and like Instagram challenges and that, and they've been really fun to watch. I think this year's Reading Rush has been really, really good. Yeah, to be fair, everybody probably did a better job than I did at the daily vlog, so they're just so much fun to look at. And yeah, I think it was a really successful and fun Reading Rush to take part in. To be fair, I read loads of books and it really kind of encouraged me to read just tons. I was spending every spare minute reading, so I thought I would talk about the books that I read, tell you what I liked, what I didn't like. Spoiler, I liked all of them, but yeah, just take you through what I thought of them and yeah, give you my final verdict on my Reading Rush reading. So, this is the pile over here. So, the first book, I won't spend too much time talking about it because I think I gushed endlessly on the last few vlogs that I did on this book, but this one is Paul Takes the Form of a Mortal Girl by Andrea Laula. I adored this book. It's definitely going into my kind of top books of the year. So this one was for, I'm looking at my laptop, was for a book with 5 or more words in the title. And it is about Paul, who is a shapeshifter, essentially. He can gender shift. So he takes the form of a man or a woman at will. He can kind of control his body and make it shift. And this book is set in the 90s. It's set around Riot Girl. It has loads of 90s, particularly 90s Riot Girl music references in it. So if you love that era, you're going to love that book. It's something that I adore. It really reminds me of Michelle Tier's books, who actually did blurb this, and so did Eileen Miles, who's one of my other favourite authors, and they blurbed this as well. So I adored this book. I loved the fact that it explored gender and gender identity. It was unbelievably queer, it's dripping queer, which was wonderful. Paul has relationships with men and women, so when he's in his male form, he's gay. He has relationships with men. There's also a couple of relationships with women, but it's mainly men. And then when he's in his female form, same thing, he is mainly attracted to women. And there's quite a bit of smut in here, which is very nice, but also this kind of gender discussion, and then sent in the 1990s with all the music references and all of that good stuff in it. Loved it, loved it, loved it. 5-star, definitely one of my favourite reads so far this year. Then the next one that I read this was for the challenge to read a book in the same place the whole time, and I chose A Portable Shelter by Kirsty Logan. It's very short, so it was good to read in one spot, and I read it in my bed. And you can see I've tabbed it because I love this book. It's just beautiful. So the premise of this book is that you have 2 women who are telling their unborn child stories. And both women had agreed they weren't going to tell the child fairy tales or stories, but they tend to tell stories about their own past. They basically tell her about their past and about stories their family told them, but kind of in fairy tale format, and the writing is just beautiful. It kind of, you could read it like a series of short stories, but with this interconnected kind of thread running through it of talking to the unborn baby, and Ruth is carrying the baby. Triska is it Triska? Liska? Sorry. I'm just trying to remember Liska. Sorry, I keep calling her Triska. Liska is the other character. She is the other mother, and she tends to talk to the baby when Ruth is asleep, and then Ruth tends to talk to the baby when Liska is out at work. So it's just really, really beautiful. It's gorgeously written. The fact that you have 2 women having a baby, and it's just not weird. Like, that's never... It's not, I guess, it's not the premise of the story, but I think it's really beautiful that you basically have 2 mothers, and these kind of really beautiful fairy tales woven into this book. I adored it. Again, a 5-star read for me. Then the next one that was another 5-star read is The Poet X by Elizabeth Acevedo. Again, tabbed, which, like I said, I don't really do that much anymore, so there has to be something really beautiful, or a passage I really like, or something in it that I really want to remember. And this is, I'm really late to the party here, I think everybody's pretty much read it by now, but it is basically a book in verse. So our main character, Zamara, she wants to be, she's interested in slam poetry, but she also has a very kind of Christian and quite strict mother and family. She has a twin brother who's grappling with his own issues. And she falls for this guy, and she's not supposed to date. And it basically just tells the story of her coming to terms with herself, with her kind of sexuality in that sense, discovering boys, the fact that she becomes really interested in poetry. She's writing poetry all the time, and she wants to do slam poetry, and she wants to perform. It's just beautiful. It's this gorgeous like coming of age story basically, and I loved it. I loved the verse format. I didn't know whether I was going to like it or not, but I really loved it. And this is going to be definitely be a reread for me, because I think on first read through it was very quick. Being part of a readathon, that was good. I was reading it quickly, but I want to kind of read this again and just appreciate just the verse and the way the verses are written as well. So I agree with everybody else on this one. Fantastic book. And the next one, so that's 3 down. The next one actually was one I listened to an audiobook, so I don't have a physical copy, but it was The Lady's Guide to Petticoats and Piracy. I always say it the wrong way around. And it is the Mackenzie Lee book. That is the follow-up to Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue, and it follows on from that story. So Monty is the main character there, and his sister Felicity is kind of a side character. And this time Felicity gets her kind of moment in the spotlight, and Felicity really wants to be a doctor. But this is in an era sort of in the 1800s where women cannot be doctors, and she's basically laughed at. But what I love about Felicity is she has this kind of really spunky, I guess, feminist side to her, which is really cool. She kind of feels like she wants to do this, and she can do this, and she would make as good a doctor as any man, which is true, she would. But she's not given the opportunity. And then in the same fashion as Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue, she meets up with another character. The pirates come back for an encore, and she gets herself into a bit of trouble, and there is an adventure that ensues. I know a lot of people don't like Felicity as a character, find her annoying. I get it, but at the same time, I like her. I also like the fact that she's essentially aromantic and asexual, which is really cool, because you don't see too many books with characters like that in it. So if you're looking for a romance, this book, no. But I really like her kind of, you get up and go. I like that. And I also like that Percy and Monty make a cameo appearance in this book as well. So it's really cool. So again, I gave that one 4 stars out of 5. The next one, physical book again, is, that one, Piracy and Petticoats and Piracy, was for the purple. Yeah, so that was for purple on the cover, because it's a very purple book. And then the next one, which is The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, Season of the Witch. This was for a non-human main character. So technically Sabrina is human, but she's also kind of part sort of witch demon, so you know. And this is a tie-in to the Netflix series. It's also sort of a prequel to that, and it follows Sabrina in the days leading up to her birthday, when she is going to come into her full power as a witch. And it's great. It's got Beyonce in it, it's got the cat in it, it's got her crazy cousin in it, and it is a lot of fun. I really had a great time reading it. I thought it was a little bit tongue-in-cheek. I thought it was a little bit dark. I really enjoyed it. Yeah, I don't know what more I can say about it. It was just a fun ride, and I'm definitely going to be reading the next one when it comes out. So again, this was a 4-star book for me. Then the next one is this one over here, is Disobedience by Naomi Alderman. So originally what I was going to do was I was going to use this to double up on a challenge. So this is a author's first book. So Disobedience is Naomi Alderman's first book, and there's also a film starring Rachel Weisz. So I was going to use it for that as well, to watch a film adaptation of a book. But I also wanted to read 7 books. So I decided I was only going to use this in the end for the first novel. And I actually ended up listening to it on audiobook, because very handily enough, my library came in and saved me. The audiobook was on hold. Didn't think I'd get it for the reading rush, but I did. So I listened to it again. This is a reread. I have read it. I still enjoyed it. I don't know if I enjoyed it as much on the second time round. I did get some problematic bits and pieces. So what this is about is you've got Ronit, who was raised in the UK in London in a very orthodox Jewish family. Her father was the rabbi, and she kind of left all that behind her, and she's now in New York. She doesn't really adhere to kind of Jewish orthodox ways and traditions anymore. She's got a successful career. She is also, I would say her character is actually bisexual. In the beginning of this book, she is having a affair with her boss, who is a man. But what this kind of hinges on is the fact that when she was a teenager, she had a really passionate kind of love affair with one of her friends at school, one of her female friends. And the novel starts off with Ronit in the States, and she finds out that her father, the rabbi, has died, and she's called back. Sorry, I think you can hear, I don't know if you can hear that, but that's a siren going past. Something's obviously happened. Anyway, it's actually perfect timing, for her father's died. Sirens. And she has to go back to the UK to kind of deal with some of the affairs. And her cousin, is it her cousin? Yeah, her cousin is now is sort of primed to take over as rabbi. And it kind of, and he's then married to Esty, who was her kind of love. And it's these questions around grappling with religion, sexuality, acknowledging who you are. There's a lot about Jewish religion here, which is really interesting if you don't know much about that, and I didn't, which I found really interesting. And it's about these two women, and also trying to decide whether, you know, you I guess stick to what you know, follow what your familial path is, or kind of break out. And it's a good book. I would still give it 4 stars. I it's interesting. And for the fact that this was her first book, Naomi Alderman's, I think she did a great job. So she very famously read The Power. I think that's probably her most famous book. So then what I did was I picked this lovely graphic novel over here as my 7th read, because this would be the movie tie-in. So Blue is the Warmest Colour was turned into a film, quite a raunchy film. So it's basically about 2 girls, and it's one of them's falling in love with a woman for the first time. That woman has blue hair, hence blue is the warmest colour. And both the graphic novel, I adore the graphic novel. I actually like the graphic novel more than the book. It's very sad. It's very beautifully wrought, all black and grey really tones, except for the blue in between, particularly the blue of her hair. It's raunchy, it's queer, it's heartbreaking, it's beautiful, it's a love story. It's amazing. So both the graphic novel, I would definitely recommend the graphic novel, and I would recommend the film if you're over 18. And then just to be extra, I read another Christy Logan book, and this doesn't really fit into a challenge, but I had to be extra. I read this one, The Grace Keepers. So I was sort of on a mission to read all of her books after reading The Gloaming, which I adored, Portable Shelter, which I adored, and Grace Keepers, which I adored. The only thing I would say, I think for me, I don't know why, but I would give this 4.5, not quite 5 stars, but, and if I say why, so I thought this was going to be more about the relationship between the 2 women. So this is kind of set in quite a fantastical world where you have this one woman who's a grace keeper who basically lays dead people to rest at sea. And this is kind of, I would say, a dystopian, futuristic dystopian. Ties in really well with the theme of global warming, because in this book, the world's basically been overrun by water. Most of the world is now underwater. And you have those people that live on land and those people that live on sea. And then, so you've got this main character, these 2 main characters essentially. One who's this grace keeper who kind of puts people to rest at sea. And then you have this traveling circus, and they're sea dwellers as well, and they kind of sail from port to port, and they perform in this gorgeous, mystical, magical circus. So all these elements that I love. And there's also this kind of slight love story element between these 2 women, but that never really comes to the forefront. So maybe I was expecting that more, but as a beautiful, mystical, fantastical story, beautifully written, gorgeous imagery, this kind of fantastical water floating circus, very emotional in parts, beautiful, beautiful book. 4.75. I adored it. I'm definitely reading all of her books. I will do a author spotlight on her because just I love it. So that's it. So that's my wrap up. I hope you guys had a great time doing the reading rush. Let me know what you read. Let me know if you've read any of those and any recommendations. And I will speak to you all again very soon. Bye bye.